to Trail Grazers. We're so glad that you joined us. As you know, we focus on getting prepared to eat on the trail. And so today we are going to cover something that is pretty foundational to a lot of the camping and trail riding that we do, and that is milk and milk products. Now, we're going to freeze dry some whole milk and some buttermilk. Our freeze dryer is wonderful because we can make the decision about whether or not we're going to pack the food away for a long-term storage or for a short-term storage. And in this case, it's going to be short-term storage because this whole milk and this buttermilk have a higher fat content than is recommended for long-term storage. Nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and freeze dry it. We can do that very, very safely. We would never can these two things, but freeze drying is great. And then what we will do once we get them freeze dried is we're going to make powder. Out on the trail, it is so convenient to, and space saving actually, to have some things in powdered form that don't take up space in our refrigerator. And so milk and buttermilk, because we often really love to have fresh made, homemade biscuits when we're out on the trail. And this will allow us to do that, and I can make up my biscuit mix, which I'm going to be showing in another video as well. So here's how we do this. I will not fill these right here and try to get these out to our freeze dryer. Half of it would be spilled before I get there. We pre-freeze liquids like this, and so what we will do is when we go out to the freezer, we will put down one tray. And these trays hold almost exactly 1 quart of liquid. So I'll pour in the freezer, with this on the freezer shelf, enough milk here to fill the tray. And then we put one cross section like that, and I will finish this. And then we'll do the same for the buttermilk, with half of the buttermilk here and half of the buttermilk here. Then we're going to let these freeze overnight. In the morning, when these are now frozen solid, we will then go out to the Kelvin lab. And as you remember, Kelvin is the name of our freeze dryer. And we will get these trays in Kelvin, and they will probably take at least a day, 24 hours, to completely dry. So we will see you in the morning when we put these in the freeze dryer. All right, this is Kelvin, our freeze dryer. It is a Harvest Right medium size, and we do have the oil-less pump. No oil in this pump. Thankfully, I don't want to have to be bothered by changing oil. So what we do, and what has worked really, really well for us, after a lot of trial and error, we've just had this barely a year, is that when we do things like liquids, and this is frozen solid, we will freeze them overnight in our regular freezer. There's the whole milk, and here's the buttermilk. So this medium-sized one holds 4 trays. Here is the insulating pad. And then we'll hit start. Now we have our option here of pre-frozen or not frozen. Now we used to always pick pre-frozen, and we just got into some messes by doing it this way. And then we read more information online and found out other people who had better luck with better results and outcomes with selecting not frozen for absolutely everything except maybe for ice cream. So we now select not frozen, even though that food has been frozen. So now we're instructed, load food into freeze dryer. That's done. Close the drain valve. Our drain valve is right over here. We close that drain valve so the vacuum can now form in that vacuum chamber. Now what's going to happen as we hit continue is that it is starting to freeze. Right now inside that chamber is 53 degrees. It should be dropping, 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 dropping. It will go down to between 30 below and 40 below. And then after it gets that cold, it will start warming up. And as that happens, the water that is trapped inside the cells will sublimate, just like dry ice. It goes from frozen water to water vapor without going through liquid water. And so it sublimates, and then it forms ice on the side. It condenses on the side. When we come in here tomorrow to take these out, I'll show you that ice. As a result, freeze-dried food, the cellular structure remains intact. The water is gone, but it's now nice and light and airy. With dehydrated food, the water evaporates, but the cells crush down. And so the advantage of a freeze dryer is that the cellular structure is maintained, just the water is gone. So this will probably take, I'm guessing, about at least 24 hours. And so we will check to see tomorrow and bring you back out when we're ready to take these out. So this is our Kelvin lab. It's noisy, so we put it in a specialized room where the noise doesn't bother the rest of the house. So we'll see you tomorrow. This just barely finished. 33 hours and 40 minutes, so I was a little bit off in my estimation. I have opened the drain valve and vented it, so we can go ahead and open it. Let's see what it looks like. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Soft, feathery, light as air. Let's get these in the house and I'll show you what we do with them. These two are the whole milk and these two are the buttermilk. And they fooled me. I thought I got them mixed up, so I had to do a little taste test, and these are definitely the buttermilk. So usually when I do a freeze-drying batch like this, I will powder the product. But I'll tell you, these are so soft. I'm just going to try a little experiment today, and that is I'm just going to put them in the jars without powdering them. If I run into problems, I can always come back and powder them. Now, the unusual thing about this is that this is powdered whole milk, and usually powdered milk is skim milk. Non-fat dry milk is what it generally is called. And we have a lot of that. But there are just some times when I want to have whole milk for some recipes. And Jim and I no longer drink a lot of milk, so having it in its dried condition is really, really helpful. Now, we're gearing up to get ready to go on one of our trips here in a couple of weeks. And so what I am doing is taking a look at our supply shelves outside, and I am making sure that we have all of the staples that we need, and especially among things that we usually dehydrate or freeze dry, because I need some lead time to get those done. These would powder just beautifully, but there's no sense in powdering them and using that extra energy and whipping up the food if they're going to rehydrate without being powdered, which I believe that these will. We'll do a test here in just a minute. I'm going to finish filling jars and then we'll come back. All right, we're getting close to the top. Now what I did with the other one was when we got this close to the top, I just took my little whisk and just went like this. It crushes the flakes down, makes a whole lot more room, and actually makes the whole powder better suited for rehydrating. So when we go on the trail, we do not take these great big jars. These great big jars are perfect for storing our freeze-dried food. We don't put our dehydrated food in these, but our freeze-dried food goes in these 2-quart jars. And then we have other smaller sizes that we pack for the road. And if I'm not going to use it, if it's not on my menu, I don't take it. I am so excited about this buttermilk because now I can mix up my buttermilk biscuit mix in advance and just have it right there, ready to fix for breakfast whenever we want on the trail. Okay. This is our vacuum sealer. It is a Weston. It was about $200, and I'll put the link below the video if anyone is interested. We don't take any kind of payment on anything that we recommend. For us, it's an ethical issue. We don't judge anybody who does, so don't think that at all. But we just kind of don't like to do that. So feel free to buy it or not buy it, whatever you would like. This is a nice Weston. It does a great job. We really do like it. Now this little attachment set for fruit jars, for canning jars, came from a different manufacturer. It came from Food Saver. And we just got lucky that the hose attachment fit right here in the accessory port. Now there's one size for wide mouth jars and one for regular, but we'll be using this one. I'm going to, because this was quite a dusty product, I'm going to wipe off the rims. And I either vacuum seal or I use an oxygen absorber. I very, very rarely use both. It's not necessary. And this is clean product, so we're good. Now these lids that I am using are already used lids. They have been through my canner once, and they cannot be used for canning again. But they can be used, whoa, that one is not. These are the lids that came, these are brand new jars. These are the lids that came with the jars. I don't use these because new lids are in such short supply right now. I'm going to save those for canning. And I have lots of already used ones. So I use the already used ones for vacuum sealing. And this is all there is to it. Once the lid is aligned, this goes over the top like this. And this little hose goes in the port on top. Okay. Solid as a rock. Now, because you cannot, USDA says canning dairy is not safe, I don't do it. I pretty much follow the USDA guidelines. So this is certainly dairy, but freeze drying is a totally different situation. It is very safe to freeze dry dairy. And so we have done things like yogurt and sour cream and cheeses, different kinds of cheeses, because it is so easy to freeze dry. And all of these things we take with us on the trail, and it just makes it so lovely because we don't have to count on having to make space in our refrigerator for these things. And so that's why we do things like this ahead of time. Right. This one is now labeled buttermilk. I'm going to label this one whole milk. And we are now one step closer to our trip. I get so excited when we are planning a trip. So we need some more prep time and practice on a few other things, and then we should be ready to go in about a week, and we're going to take you with us. We're inserting this little clip. It's several hours after we finish this video. and I realized that we had not reconstituted the milk as I promised that we would. So we're back for just a couple of minutes here, and we're going to do a little bit of reconstituting. So I'm going to put about 1/4 of a cup, just loose, of the buttermilk, and 1/4 of a cup of the whole milk, not tightly packed. And then I'm going to do 1-on-1, 1-to-1. I have very carefully weighed and measured things in the freeze dryer. And sometimes it works out pretty close and sometimes it really doesn't. So we'll see what these do. The whole milk is not dissolving well. It will, but it's not easy. The buttermilk went just great. Went dissolved instantly. But this, as you can see, is still a little bit lumpy. And I may have to go ahead and run this through the blender and powder it completely for an easier reconstitution. Everything is just a little bit different, and I don't mind experimenting around as we do this. But I'm going to taste the buttermilk. It's fantastic. You can see that it looks a little bit clumpy here, but it isn't anymore because all of that has dissolved. So this is great. The whole milk, not so much. Oh, it's better. Let me just taste it. It's okay. And it's not that I'm going to reconstitute this to drink it. I'm going to be using it in recipes. And so a few little lumps. I don't know if you can see this, but it is just a little bit lumpy. Because this is whole milk, it of course has the milk fat. And I suspect that that is what is not reconstituting as easy. With the regular powdered milk, which I have a ton of, it's skim, and so I don't have the trouble with this fat. It will work great in recipes, but I would not, at least so far, I would not reconstitute it for drinking. But the buttermilk is the winner. It is just really wonderful. All right, so back to our regularly scheduled video. And so thanks for being with us. I hope you enjoyed this. If you don't have a freeze dryer, you might want to look into them because they are pretty fantastic. So thanks for being with us, and we will see you at our next video.